on faith and family, and a lot of the work that makes that happen falls to the women in the house. So to help with it all, a special podcast launches today, the Muslim Women Talk Ramadan podcast, and its host, Shalina Jan Mohammed, joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
So first of all then, for anyone who's not familiar with Ramadan, just give us a sense of what it means, why it's so important.
It's one of the core pillars of Islamic faith, and the idea is that you fast for 30 days, for a month, and it's supposed to be a time of spiritual transformation. So you take a breath, you try and step out of your daily grind and just focus on you, who you are, and for Muslims, their connection on the divine. But of course, that comes with the physical fasting during those days.
So tell us about the podcast, how that came about.
We are so excited to have a space for Muslim women to have these conversations. I've actually been developing it in conjunction with a friend of mine who runs a Muslim mental health charity called Muslim Mind. It's Muslim women's mental health is something I've been thinking about for a while, but my father passed away just before New Year and my mum only about 12 months before that. And I realised that as Ramadan was coming, I would want a space where I can have those conversations and feel the support of Muslim women and the sisterhood and have some really honest conversations. And then I thought, well, if I'm feeling that, I can't be the only one, because I know that Ramadan is a really challenging time for Muslim women. You know, there's all the daily grind, the work. If you're a mum, you've got kids. But then you also have, you know, extra cooking, extra childcare. You know, it's almost like, I think a really nice way perhaps people could understand, it's like cooking 30 Christmas dinners in a row, and then you also have to cook. Yeah, it's really exhausting, because you want to, you know, particularly if you're a mum, but also for women, you want to give that real special magic of those Ramadan meals called iftar to your family and to your children. And there's so much pressure to have this kind of Instagram idyllic Ramadan, but Muslim women also want to have that time for themselves and the spirituality. And we just thought it was really important that we find a place where we can talk about that, and we have ways to help people have those conversations, but also get from the beginning of Ramadan till the end in a successful way.
And presumably that cooking, that's coming at the end of the day when, as you say, you've been at work, or you've been with the kids, and you're having to sort of prepare food that you can't eat for, you know, until the fast breaks. I mean, that must have an impact. But do you think this podcast is also important in terms of just supporting the mental health of Muslim women?
Well, that's one of the primary reasons we want to do it. So each week we have, I'm calling her our Ramadan BFF, we have somebody who is trained in coaching and mentoring to take us on this journey and give us a little bit of me time. I think as women, we all need a little bit of that and deserve it. So in the first episode, which is dropping today, we're talking about how you map your journey ahead, when we're going to talk about how you go from doing to being. So not being a human doing, but a human being, and taking a bit of time out for breath. And then in the next 3 episodes, we're going to talk about compassion, self-respect, and kindness. But we also want people to feel that there are different ways to do things and that there are inspirations out there. So we're going to have an amazing Muslim woman each week so that we can be inspired by her. And I'm so thrilled. This week we've got Baroness Saida Warsi talking behind the scenes, if you ever wanted to know what she's doing for Ramadan. And then I've got my fingers very tightly crossed that next week we're going to have Nadia Hussein coming in to talk to us as well. So Nadia, if you're listening, I've got that interview scheduled with you.
So, I mean, yes, so some really big names. What about for non-Muslims? What should we be doing to kind of support our colleagues during Ramadan? Should we be, I don't know, I'm very guilty of eating at my desk, for example. Should we be avoiding stuff like that?
Well, the first thing I'd say, everybody can listen to the podcast. Actually, it's a really great way to learn about the conversations that are happening in Ramadan and the realness of it. And actually, for women in particular, you can go on the 4-week journey with us as well. But if you're thinking about what to do with your friends or your colleagues, fasting is a really magical experience in the sense that only you really know that you're doing it, and that's why you're doing it, because it's a kind of self-discipline and a self-experience. So actually, most Muslims probably won't mind if you're eating around them. I think it's it's actually very lovely when we see colleagues who might just be a little bit more cautious. Like, please don't eat a really giant piece of chocolate cake in front of somebody's face just before time for breaking fast. But other than that, I think just sort of some sensitivities around, if you are eating, maybe do it a little bit away, because sometimes things do smell good. But other than that, I think just people knowing that we're practicing Ramadan and that we're fasting is actually one of the most wonderful things people can do.
Well, Shalina, Jan, Mohammed, best of luck with the podcast and Ramadan Mubarak.
Thank you. You too.